Hi guys, it's Nika and I'm finally back, baby. I took a little break, which wasn't really planned, but at the same time was kind of planned. I was going to pre-record for when I'm gone, but then that didn't really happen because, I don't know, there's just a lot has been going on and there's been a heat wave, so I didn't really feel like recording in the heat. But yeah, now I'm back and I'm so excited to be talking to you guys again. I seriously missed it so much. So today we are back in Create a Sim and I will be creating James's 4 best friends. James I have already introduced in 2 videos a few weeks ago, so if you don't know who that is, definitely go check them out. They will be linked in the description, or maybe they will be actually at the end of this video. No, you know what? I'm gonna make a note. I'm gonna put it in the description. Because why would you go at the end of this video for videos you're supposed to watch before this one, right? And really, I feel like you should probably, if you care about the storylines and if you want to know what's going on, definitely watch the 2 videos where I talk about James before this one, because these girls, they are her friends, and they actually only exist in the story to be her friends. So their existence is very much tied to James's character, I guess. So the 4 girls, there is 4 girls. Their names are Harley, Orla, Gabby, and Lila. And I'm just gonna say it now. I mean, it's kind of something that happens every time, but this time I will mostly be talking about Harley and Orla. And I will not be talking so much about the other 2 girls, simply because even in the original legacy, in the original story that I did with them and with James, only Harley and Orla, or whatever they were called in the original story, only they were relevant. I said that weirdly. Relevant. I meant relevant. I don't know what I said. Gabby and Lila, they were sort of just there to be in the friend group, but they didn't really have much personality. They didn't really do much. They just were there, and they disappeared as soon as I didn't need James's friend group anymore, basically. So with that out of the way, it's story time. So as you know from the previous videos, James moved to Twinbrook after her mother passed away. James went to live with her father, and because Tyler is famous and Twinbrook is a small town and everybody knows, everybody learned quite soon that there's this surprise daughter that is suddenly living in that house, and since she's a teenager, obviously she will go to the Twinbrook school. And so the day came and James went to the school for the first time, and basically already when she was outside, when she was in the hallways, people were staring at her, people were whispering, trying to figure out, is that really her? She looks a lot like him. Is that his daughter? They were like making assumptions. They were like comparing them, because like, yeah, James looks a lot like Tyler, but at the same time she's her own person and she grew up without him, so her style and her personality and everything, it is very different also. So yeah, it was not very pleasant. And then when she got to her classroom, everybody just went quiet and everyone was just like staring and, holy shit, is it really her? Is that the daughter that we saw the pictures of? And James, even though she's the kind of person that likes to make friends and finds it very easy to talk to people and make new friends, she was very uncomfortable and she didn't feel like making friends at all that day. She just wanted to get through the day and go back home and maybe cry to her pillow about how much her life has changed and how much she wants the old life back, even though it definitely was not perfect, but she was at least used to it. And like she was a nobody in the sense of like nobody at her old school knew that she is a daughter of a famous musician. In that sense, she was nobody, and people liked her and talked to her just because of her, because she had a lovely personality and she was a nice person and a good friend. But only from these like first few minutes at the new school, she was like, right, so that's gonna change. First they're gonna stare, and then surely a lot of people will want to be friends with me just because I have a famous dad. And so she, yeah, as I said, she was not having a good time and she just wanted to get out and go home. But in the end, that didn't happen because there was this friend group in her class, and I've already said their names. It was Harley, Orla, Gabby, and Lila. And Erin, sorry, not Erin. Actually, Erin was Orla's old name, but since I have another character named Erin now, I had to change her name. So Orla was like, out of the four, she was probably the most obsessed with James. She just kept looking at her, and she always, during the breaks, she just wanted to gossip about her with her other three friends. And she decided at lunch break, you know what, we are gonna invite her in. She seems quite uncomfortable. She's not having a good time. I don't think she enjoys this weird attention. It was like, the attention was like everyone was looking at her and no one wanted to talk to her. Or like nobody tried to talk to her. Everyone was just so shocked that she's finally there, if that makes sense. And so the four girls, they sort of noticed that. Orla noticed that. And she was just like, you know what, we need to make this place feel better for her, basically. And so after lunch break, they went to her and they pretty much just invited James to their circle. And obviously people assumed, and James at first also assumed, and from Orla's behavior, it was quite easy to assume that Orla is just trying to be friends with James for who her parents are, or who her father is. And I guess like her stepmom is, I guess, famous too. Like she's a great athlete, so famous as well. So yeah, they invited her to their circle, and at first James didn't trust them. Like she felt like they're really just curious about the famous person's daughter and that they didn't really care about her for her, if that makes sense. But she stuck around the girls, and eventually she found that they really like her and she really likes to hang out with them as well. And for a few years all was well. They were inseparable, and then something changed. And for that I think I will have to tell you more about Harley and Orla. And I'm not sure who to begin with. I think I should begin with... Actually, I will begin with Orla, even though Harley is the first one in the video. So, over the course of what the girls had left of middle school and then in high school, Orla sort of became a small internet personality, you could say. I would say that she had like kind of a quirky vibe, kind of something, you know, she's given me like 2010s kind of YouTuber, that kind of thing, that kind of vibe. And she's given me a vibe of someone from YouTube that I would have been obsessed with in like 2015, and now years later I would look back, or I would look up their recent videos and I would think actually they kind of suck, they're kind of cringe. That's kind of the vibe that I'm getting from Orla. She's kind of really leaning into the quirky personality, quirky, geeky, nerdy, that kind of stuff. And she actually had an immediate crush on James. She didn't really realize it at the time because she didn't know back then that she's a lesbian. It all sort of came to her over the course of the next few years. But looking back, she realized, oh my god, I was so gay for her from the very first moment. And once she knew that she had the crush on James, she felt like it needs to get out. She felt like she needs to tell James. She didn't tell her right away. She kept it a secret for a bit, but eventually, almost at the end of high school, she came to James and she told her everything. It was quite a dramatic reveal, kind of like, I can't keep living like this. I'm in such like pain that I cannot be with you and hug you and kiss you, and I'm in love with you and I cannot live without you. It was very dramatic, very over dramatic, exaggerated. Hard to tell which part of the exaggeration was like intentional and which part of it was like actually from Orla's heart, if that makes sense. But anyway, James was flattered, I guess, and she was like, okay, so let's try dating, I guess. And so they became a thing. They went on a few dates. They tried it out, and it seemed to work pretty well. So they announced their relationship to the rest of the friend group. That wasn't really met with, I don't know, they weren't really happy, basically. Well, that's not true. Gabby and Lila, they were happy, I guess. Maybe a little confused. They didn't see it coming, and Orla was hiding her crush pretty well. Like, for such a painful crush that she would yearn for so much, she hid it pretty well. Actually, the only person who didn't take it well was Harley, or at least that's what James assumed, because once they announced that they're dating, Harley sort of started hanging out less with the group until when it was after graduation. She didn't come to like the graduation party, and when they came to her house the next day, Harley's mom told them that Harley actually went away to see her dad. Now, you need to know that Harley's parents, they were never married, and they split up when Harley was 5 years old, and then her father went to live in Sunlit Tides in the Sims 3, although I feel like I will be saying Solani, even though I feel like I should say Sunlit Tides, like the Sims 3 world. But anyway, so he went to live in Solani. Yeah, I will be saying Solani, never mind. And he only saw his daughter a few times after that. Harley didn't really care about him. He didn't really seem to care about her that much either. Although he was always like, if you ever get tired of Twinbrook, because it's a pretty boring town, you can always come to live with me. It's like, well, you will have to go to school, but like there's, beautiful beaches, and it's like you're on vacation 24/7. And Harley was always like, no, thank you. She was getting a really bad vibe from her dad, I guess. I don't know. He is kind of an asshole. But after all this time, she finally accepted his offer and went to Solani for summer. And when her friends learned, they were like, that's weird. because she never really wanted to go there to see her dad. She always talked about how terrible her dad is, like he's such a prick. Why would she suddenly go there? And yeah, so that happened, and then they didn't see Harley for a few years, because obviously they just finished high school and they were all going to universities. Orla was going to a university, Harley was going to another university. Gabby and Lila also were going, you guessed it, to a university. The only one that didn't go was James. James stayed in Twinbrook and she was just doing something else. She didn't really have like academic ambitions or anything like that. She actually in The Sims 3 she was a ghost hunter, so I don't know what you need to do, what you need to study to be a ghost hunter, but yeah, she's like, that was her job. Anyway, so the friend group kind of fell apart. They started splitting up after Harley left, and the bonds they had, they never really were as strong again. And even Orla and James started sort of drifting apart. Their long distance relationship wasn't really working. They didn't really have time to talk on the phone and everything. And Orla was also busy, not just with school, but also with her internet career, I guess, because she really blew up at the beginning of her freshman year. She suddenly got so many followers after doing something. I don't know what YouTubers do to go viral or gain suddenly thousands of followers overnight. But yes, that happened. Suddenly she was very famous, and although James was happy for her, she never really understood this. She doesn't have any social media. She doesn't really care for the internet too much. So there was always this, like, she was supporting her, but she wasn't really getting it. And now, considering Orla got sort of famous, she was like actually an influencer now. They had even less time for each other. And then one time, James got the news from Lila that Orla posted a picture on the internet with a girl, and she was sort of talking about the girl as if she was her girlfriend. So that was very weird to James, and because like, even though they weren't talking as much, they never broke up, at least not officially. So she decided to call Orla and be like, hey, so what's that about? Like, are you like girlfriend, like, are you in love with her? Why didn't you tell me that you want to break up? Or like, was I not supposed to know? Did you just want to have two girlfriends? What's going on? And Orla basically said, well, I thought that, like, even though we didn't say it, we weren't a thing anymore. Like, you didn't really act like my girlfriend for the past few months. Why are you upset? Like, a girlfriend should like treat me differently. Basically, they broke up over the phone, and they were like, it was kind of messy because even though their relationship, like, they drifted apart, like, I guess if you're gonna start dating another person, maybe you should tell the person before that person that, like, hey, so I know we kind of drifted apart, but I just want to make it clear that I'm moving on. So they both went their separate ways. Orla had her girlfriend in university and her internet career. James was doing her stuff in Twinbrook. Her childhood friend and his wife happened to move to Twinbrook, and she started talking to, obviously she was talking to her childhood best friend, and then the childhood best friend convinced her to be his lover. He was like, so my marriage kind of sucks and I've kind of always really liked you. And James, like, she didn't really want to be his girlfriend because he was married. But then he convinced her basically that it would be okay and that they can totally do that. And as I believe I've already said this, it didn't end well. James got pregnant, and suddenly Brad, her boyfriend, he was like, well, I absolutely don't want anything with that child. Like, do whatever with that child, but don't drag me into this. He grew up to be a bit of an asshole. Not even a bit of an asshole. He was an asshole. Straight up, absolute asshole. And I freaking hate this guy. So they also had a big terrible breakup, and they had it in public. Like, it's not like a lot of people were, nobody was around, or so they thought. They had this like secret place where they went, where they were hanging out, if they didn't really want to be seen. But actually someone did see them. Harley was actually just visiting town. She was home from university for a bit, and she went for a walk, and she witnessed the whole fight, and she heard James telling Brad that she's pregnant and like, what do they do now? And she witnessed Brad yelling at her that like it's over, and you know, the whole thing. And James obviously was very shocked after that. She was very shaken. And so Harley, even though she didn't really have anything to do with the group, with the friend group anymore, she cut all ties to them. She just felt really bad, and so she sort of came out of her hiding, and she comforted James, and James told her everything that happened. And they were talking, and they basically reunited. I think you guys might be able to tell where this is leading. In the original, it happened pretty much instantly. If I were to write it now, this would happen over the course of James's pregnancy. But basically, they got reunited and they got very close again. And eventually, Harley admitted that when she went away at the end of high school, it was because she couldn't stand looking at Orla and James being all happy and a couple, when this whole time, she had a crush on James as well. And it's really hurt her. It hurt her even because Orla knew that when Harley is crushing on someone, she gets super shy around them. And Orla should have known that Harley is not her usual self around James, and yet she still went and like dated her, even though like there was no indication that she was crushing as well. And like Harley was like, yeah, like I didn't own you, she could have totally dated you, but it still really hurt a lot, so I left and I didn't want to hang out with you anymore. And they got so close over the last few months over James's pregnancy that James is just kind of, I don't know, moved by it, and everything makes sense. Basically, yes, they got together. And and they lived happily ever after, basically. After that, no drama was in James's life anymore. She finally found the one, and they got married eventually. And actually, after they got married, they adopted a child together. And Harley, as an adult, she works at kindergarten. What else can I tell you about her? She also, I didn't really mention this anywhere in like what I was talking about, but James also, not James, Harley, I'm looking at my notes that I wrote. She's quite a confident person and loud and proud and all. But like I said, she gets really shy around crushes, and she's never really dated anyone because she's just like a disaster around her crushes. And she's also, oh yeah, I forgot to mention this. She loves to dance, even though she's a little clumsy. And yeah, that would be all my notes on Harley and Orla. And I feel like, will I be able to tell you anything about Gabby and Lila? Gabby is kind of a soft, creative soul. She writes poems. She's mostly a loner. She really, well, not really a loner, but she struggles to make friends. And so when the friend group split, it kind of really hurt her bad. Because even though she was always quiet in the group, she really loved hanging out with her friends. And so, yeah, that was really hard for her. Also, she is trans and she is bisexual. And as for Lila, Lila is the token straight friend, the only straight person in the friend group. She is very much into fashion, and she really tries to look very rich and expensive, more expensive than she actually is. And you know, she seems really fake, but that's not true. She is actually a great friend. She just sort of like the way she looks, the way she might act when you first see her. You might think that she's very fake and only cares about herself, but that's not true. She is a really great friend. And oh my god, I did not expect to talk for such a long time. Oh my god. But yeah, I guess I'm back into this. Long ramblings and all that. So I hope you enjoyed it. I thought I would have more time left at the end of this, but oh well, it happened again. I have no time left. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you did. And yeah, I'm happy to be back, and I will see you all next time. Thank you so much for watching. Love you guys. Bye everyone.